Good morning. Welcome back to our Monday morning talks. I'm here with Mark this morning, and we started a new series this past Sunday, yesterday, called Blessed, and we're looking at the Beatitudes. So the statements that Jesus makes at the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount, they're in Matthew chapter 5. The first 12 verses really encompass those statements, but they start in verse 3. We had a little bit of a table talk yesterday to help set things up and really started to dig in. But what thoughts do you have, Mark?
I love what Sarah said in the table talk about, so if I win the lottery, that means I'm blessed.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought the big thing starting out, what is the word blessed? You said it can be overused and lose its meaning or its impact. And so my question coming out of it, who is blessed and what is blessing? Is it wrong to say I'm blessed if I win the lottery or have material wealth and stuff like that?
Sure.
I
just think there's a danger there.
Yeah.
We've spent some of this morning talking about that, just like there is a danger about, and that's why kind of our guiding statement for the series that I set up yesterday was blessings more about being than having.
Yeah.
Because I think when we make it about having, or when we look at blessing just simply that way, then we bless ourselves where we live, because we can become so self-reliant. There's sort of this feeling in America that we can provide for ourselves, and that we're not receiving those things from God. And
I did very little concordance study before we came together this morning, and it looked generally like in the Old Testament there's more the material blessing. Abraham was blessed with cows and sheep and animals and material ways, blessed with a child. And today we use that, we talk about that the same way, but that's more of an Old Testament concept. In the New Testament, I'm not sure I could find anywhere it talks about material blessing. It talks about spiritual blessing and things like that. I saw quite a difference between the two.
There's definitely a difference. And then you go to the dictionary, and there's a totally, the dictionary, if you look at the definition there, then it really is like contingent on happiness. That blessing is happiness.
Right.
And there are even translations of scripture that translate the word blessed sometimes as happy.
Yeah.
And I think that's dangerous too, because of what we think happiness is. And maybe that whole concept is why from the last series, I said, maybe that's why some people think God just wants me to be happy.
Yeah. You mentioned this false gospel, which kind of feeds into, you're going to be blessed materially if you have enough faith and all that. So, anyway, I came away thinking, okay, can I say I'm blessed if I'm blessed materially, blessed with family, which is more out of the Old Testament? I came away wondering, would you be okay with that?
Yeah, I don't think that it's wrong. And I was trying to say, with one of the things I said earlier, I was just trying to highlight that I think every once in a while we cheapen or make less valuable something like that, and I said it with the word love, for me to say I love tacos and then to turn around and say I love my wife and I love God. Well, shoot. So tacos are on the same level with God.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be correct. And so I think with blessing, it's the same thing too. I don't think it's wrong. I just think, gosh, you got to be mindful of what you're saying.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it's good for us as Christians to make sure that we're mindful of that with other people. Because, for someone who doesn't understand blessing or what blessing is, but I'm constantly calling it all of these things and never talking about my relationship with God and his presence being blessing.
Yeah. I read something about, and it got me thinking, I think there might be some truth to, when we, like a Thanksgiving season, we talk about, I've been blessed with this, blessed with that, and at Thanksgiving. And this writer said it can almost become a form of bragging, and so this being blessed by God actually turns around, becomes a pride thing on our part. And we just have to be careful of that.
Yeah. And I think I loved getting to kick it off then, trying to set up this conversation about blessing with the first beatitude then, because really, truly, it's just, I feel like it's starting right in the place of Jesus going, man, blessed are you when you're at the end of yourself and you don't feel like you have anything.
Yeah.
And he says, in that state, you are so near to me, or I am so near to you, and you are like, that's where I'm just like, okay, well, there it is, like that's all about not having, but being with him, being part of the kingdom, being with Jesus, like that's blessed.
That is, yeah. And when I did the concordance study in the New Testament, that was the predominant thing, blessed are those who die in the Lord, and blessed are those who are faithful, and stuff like that. Poor in spirit. The New Living Translation says, blessed are those who are poor and realize their need for him. And I thought that you pretty much hit on that's what that's all about. Realizing our hopelessness, I think as Barclay said.
Yep.
And I love this phrase you use, and I've heard it before, but I think his address is at the end of our rope.
Yeah.
That's a good image for poor in spirit.
That's what I mean, you bring up the address thing. Like I loved, and in the sermon, I used a clip from The Chosen. And it's just this scene where Jesus comes to Matthew. It's their way of interpreting this part of the gospel. And, Jesus just wakes Matthew up and says, I found it.
Yeah. And
Matthew's like, found what? And I just thought it was really powerful that Jesus goes, a map to me, a map of where to find me. Yeah. And then this is the map. These statements of blessing are the map to where Jesus is found.
Yeah, that was great.
I just thought it was really cool when Jesus says, if you want to know where I am, look for these people. Yeah. Look for the poor in spirit, look for the pure in heart, look for the peacemakers. And so. Okay,
now you brought out that these Beatitudes are statements. I think in my sermon, I'm going to talk about they're actually kind of promises, kind of same kind of thing. But I'm wondering, is this Jesus' indirect way of saying we should strive for these things? Or is he just saying, should we strive to be poor in spirit?
I don't want to go, this could go to a deeper conversation that I can't have because I'm not smart enough. Because I think a lot of that has to do some with like the ways we approach and interpret scripture significantly, because, like kind of what I highlighted yesterday was by talking about the poor in spirit and likening it to this Hebrew word anawim.
Yeah.
And who those people were. Like it was saying, well, Jesus came he was speaking to people who were poor in spirit. Like they would have been, so they didn't have to strive to be that. They was kind of the concept there. So what I was really setting up, and that's why I loved that whole thing, was we're poorer in spirit than we think we are. Right. Actually, like we lose a lot more than we win. We tend to lose tremendously in different times in our lives, and when we do, we're poor in spirit. Like, you don't have to strive for that. That's will
true.
happen.
Where everybody is poor in spirit, whether they recognize it or
Right.
not.
But what I did try to do was also go, okay, so where do I don't know how to go, yeah, you need to strive to be poor in spirit. But I do think I set up, well, what's the opposite of poor in spirit then? Well, it's pride. Right. The enemy of being poor in spirit is pride. So if you want to know what's far from Jesus, it's pride.
Yeah.
When you're prideful, you are so far from him that is not where he lives. That's not where he is. So I don't know. Like, I hate to answer the question that way by saying, well, sort of, but I guess what I'm saying is you definitely, I'm not going to tell you how to become poor in spirit. I think life will do that.
Is more just a recognition then? Recognizing I'm poor in spirit?
I think that has more to do with it than anything. And just, I don't know, like being able to, I think, I don't know. Some people, I think it is harder to get there because they're holding on to pride.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be interested in seeing how you handle mourn next week, because that's, to me, a more active. Poor in spirit is more passive. I just am. Mourn sounds like a little more active.
Yeah.
Type of thing. So.
Yeah, and I think that the struggle here, and if you watch our entire service yesterday, or if you were in the service, man, it was emotional.
The music was incredible.
Yeah,
for one thing.
It was heavy.
Yeah.
There's no secret that we've all kind of, even on staff, sort of been broken in different ways. And so I'm a little bit actually nervous about talking about mourning. I've been mourning this year. Trevor has come off of deeply mourning, and so it just has the potential to kind of be another emotional week or another emotional message. But I do think, like, the encouragement of it, like yesterday, I was just like, I want you to know there's encouragement coming. And I think the encouragement is just, I think you're right. These are statements of promise, because Jesus is saying, I am with you there.
Yeah.
I'm 100% with you when you're there.
Now that I think about it, you didn't talk much about the reward. Theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And,
yep. I kind of did that. I kind of did that on purpose.
It is. It is the map to Jesus, and Jesus is the kingdom. I mean,
I think that was the like creative side of me trying to like hold something back a little bit, just because, and I felt like I gave or was trying to give an indication of it with the way I ended the sermon. I told you this morning, like, I had a different illustration to end with. And I kind of, last week, the story I ended up ending with preached to me. I've loved the message for a long time. I use it a lot when in my own Bible study and just understanding sometimes. And, so I just talked about, Peterson started the message with the inspiration of the Beatitudes when he translated them. And if you read them, and I kind of I let that be the end of the sermon then, just, you hear it. You're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. With less of you, there's more of God and his rule. And I just think we're going to see that reward, like, tie all of these statements together. Like, they're all about less of ourselves and more of him.
Yeah. I think that's true.
The reward of the struggle of becoming less is worth the reward of more of him.
I think one thing we need to remember, and I was going to bring this up when I preach in a couple of weeks, that these are said to the disciples. It's not to everyone in general. I'm thinking someone could be poor in spirit, but still not a follower of Jesus. That true? Or someone could be a peacemaker or whatever, pure and these things. He's talking to the disciples. And I think we need to keep that in mind. This is not works righteousness, which you haven't made it into at all. If I become more meek, or if I'm more and more, I'll be saved. No, he's talking to disciples who are already followers of Jesus. And then these are in a unfortunate circumstance. A lot of people in the world would say, anyway, I ramble a little bit.
I'm trying to find where I talked about that some yesterday. Just it was the whole idea that, like, man, if
Christians are increasingly denigrated in our society, in our world. Well, that's what Jesus' disciples obviously were denigrated. And so he is encouraging them. And so if you feel like a loser in society and the society is treating you that way, you're blessed. Just remember, you're going to inherit the earth. Yours is the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah, so, what I had said in relation to that was just, that I think it's interesting that Jesus starts this sermon that's full of really heavy things that we do read, like commands. When he talks about the ways we live, and he takes things like murder and adultery, and he takes them to a deeper level. And you read that and you go, man, that is hard.
Yeah.
Like, that is a hard way to live.
Some would say impossible.
And
some of them.
and so but when you read them out of blessing,
right.
And so that's why I was kind of saying, well, if I haven't received these blessings from him, then I'm going to approach my relationship with him and the other things he says, kind of grinding it out and just trying to win his favor. But he's saying, you already have my favor.
Yeah. That was a good point, I thought.
Live out of my favor. Don't live for it.
Yeah. Very much so. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to preaching mine and hearing yours on morning. I'm really interested in how you deal with that.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to, if I can, we'll kind of end. Can I end with my illustration?
I was wondering if you would. Yeah.
And I just think it's a cool way to kind of the first beacon of the Eddystone Lighthouse off the coast of Plymouth, England, was placed there over 200 years ago to warn ships of the dangerous reefs. Winstanley, the architect who built it, was so confident of its strength that he had written on the cornerstone, "Blow zero, ye winds. Rise zero, ye ocean. Break forth, ye elements, and try my work." Those were foolish words, for less than 3 years later, a raging storm destroyed the lighthouse, along with Winstanley and others who were making repairs on it at the time. And then years later, John Smeaton, an elderly leader in civil engineering, rebuilt it. And he found a new site. He dug deep into the ground to the solid rock. He was a sincere Christian. As the new cornerstone revealed, it said, "Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it." For over 90 years, it has stood every test because it was founded on the rock. And so the question I was going to kind of end with that was, do you want the kingdom of heaven now? Then you need to dig deep and build your life on the foundation of humility, on the foundation of the rock, because that's the way to blessing. So I just think this is going to be a fun series to hopefully enlighten some of these statements and blessings that we receive. So,
yeah. Well, I was blessed.
We hope you are too, and hope you have a great week.